Hello, today I'm going to be going over the Module 4 discussion, and for this discussion prompt, I chose to focus on the NASA Challenger accident. So first, to start with a little summary, I thought there was two main reasons highlighted why, the issues that occurred with this accident. The first was people having very different perspectives when looking at the facts, specifically like engineers, mechanics, and CEOs. Even though they were all viewing the same information, the lack of communication around that information led each person to have their own thoughts and ideas when looking at those facts. And then another main reason was there was a bunch of issues with either giving or receiving bad news. Obviously, society as a whole, I feel like, usually doesn't handle bad news very well. And then if you're talking about bringing bad news to CEOs, managers, people really high up, especially with a project that has this much, I guess you could say, like, hype around it, there was definitely issues with talking about the problems that could be occurring in this project. Another issue was that they all saw each other as outsiders, so people didn't really feel comfortable communicating with each other. There was definitely a lack of open communication. And then a way I've encountered a similar problem before, a similar communication problem, was in a group project last semester. And for this group project, we were all given our groups outside of class, like it was assigned online on Canvas. So in our own time, we all read over the directions and looked at the prompt. And then when we all got together, we kind of talked about our ideas. And the issue with this was that everybody read the same directions, but people interpreted them in very different ways, even though we were all reading the same directions. For this project specifically, it had to deal with adaptability. There were some people that thought the prompt was talking about adaptable clothing for people with physical disabilities. So like adding Velcro and zippers and changing ways you get on clothes so that it's more accessible to all. Versus some other people thought it was adaptable clothing that like a pair of pants that could turn into a skirt, or a dress that you take down the top and it turns into a skirt, or something to do with clothing itself having adaptable properties. So there was definitely a not seeing eye to eye moment there with those directions. And then to address the issue, when we were all together, we all reread the directions together as a group. And then after we read the directions together, we were kind of on the same page. But then what we did was we all talked about like our own perspectives a little bit. So the people that thought the clothing was for people with physical disabilities, like adapting to fit those needs, they talked about what they read that made them think that. And then vice versa. People thought that adaptability had a different meaning. They said why they thought that. And then once we were all on the same page, we were all able to do the same research, and we were able to create a very coherent project that followed the same line of thinking. If we weren't able to address the issue, we would have all done completely different research, and then when creating our final presentation and project, it would not have looked like a coherent project that a group worked together on. You would have been able to tell people had different ideas, and we probably would not have gotten a good grade on it. But because we did fix those issues, we ended up getting a really good grade. And then how to handle issues like this in the future. I think something that's really important is going over initial ideas together. So it's usually harder to do this if the problem is occurring or if there's like a communication issue later on. But I think if you're in a new group, like creating that open communication flow and getting comfortable enough with each other that you're able to talk about problems later down on the road. I also feel like if you are able to talk about it initially, kind of just like talking about your ideas without much pressure is very beneficial. And then also in the future, being open to your perception not being correct. So sometimes people are like set in their ways that what they think is so right, but it's important to realize that your ideas may not be translated in the way that you want them to. Thank you so much for listening to this.